On this final episode of College Press Box in the 2024-25 year, our panel breaks down the very best prospects in the NFL draft and their best fits on rosters starving to improve their positional needs, all for the quest for the Lombardi Trophy. Ward, Hunter, Sanders, and plenty more are NFL bound, and it's our job to project where they'll fit best. It's the 2025 College Press Box Mock Draft Show. You won't want to miss this one. Welcome inside the HSM studio for the final edition of College Press Box this school year. It is the 2025 Mock Draft Show. I'm Joseph Duffey, and thank you for joining us one last time for what is sure to be an unforgettable broadcast to cap off an amazing semester. Before we get started with our hard-hitting analysis, we want to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. We also invite you to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at the handle TSTV Sports. Well, the NFL Draft is one of the highly anticipated events on the NFL calendar, and held this year in the vintage NFL city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. There are plenty of studs that can help improve a franchise's fortune. Where will they go? Well, we'll just have to see in this NFL mock draft broadcast, where our general managers are now front office executives. So let's meet our analysts tonight. Starting to my left, TJ Krilowicz. How you doing?
Doing great, Joseph. Glad to be on.
Good to have you. Grabiel Silva next to you, and two spots to my left now.
I'm doing great, Joe. It's hard-hitting analysis is going to be talked a lot here today.
And then Ryan Hopper, who is going to be our draft analyst, like a Mel Kiper kind of role. How you doing?
Well, hopefully I won't be as annoying as Mel typically is every draft. But no, I think this will be a lot of fun.
Slander for a fellow guy from the DMV. You don't see that a lot.
Just from Baltimore, though. Nah, we got beef.
Justin Goosman, how you doing? Falcons fan, Justin Goosman.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Not picking for the Falcons today, so gladly I don't have the burden of trying to build them into a Super Bowl contender, because Lord knows that's an impossible task.
And the very opposite side of the table, the Houstonites. Ryan Swantkowski, I'll start with you. How you doing?
Joe, excited to be here. The light makes me look even pastier than I am, but that's okay. Excited to be here, and I don't got my Texans, but that's okay as well. It's going to be a fun show.
Was that wrong for the Houstonites? It should have been Estonians, right?
Yeah, Houston.
My bad.
It's
Robert Gonsoulin.
It's all good.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, my bad. Robert Gonsoulin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. First time doing this show in 2 years. It's exciting to be doing this panel again, and, hoping those Houston Texans get some protection on the offensive line.
Yeah, hopefully for the Texans, who had C.J. Stroud running for his life last year. Hopefully they can get back on the right track and beef up that O-line with now Laramie Tunsil departed from the offensive line. So let's get started, fellas. We're going to start with picks 1 through 12, and I'll start with the Tennessee Titans. Number 1 in the NFL Draft in 2025, Cam Ward from Miami, the Davey O'Brien Award winner. Look, do I think that Cam Ward's going to have a day one impact like the quarterback for Washington Commanders? No. But look, he's a solid player. He knows how to move outside the pocket. He can command himself inside the pocket as well. He has good accuracy. He can be a great starter for this Tennessee Titans team that has had struggled to find a franchise quarterback since Steve McNair in a way. And even though they've had, a great quarterback in Ryan Tannehill the past few years, it's been a struggle to find a replacement for him with guys like Will Levis, guys like Malik Willis. I think he'll be the pick number 1 for sure.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said, Joe. He's the consensus number 1 for a reason. I do think he's the best of a bad bunch of quarterbacks, but naturally you're going to pick the best quarterback number 1. 94 PFF grade, 31 big-time throws. Good quarterback. I think you make the right pick here.
Anybody else want to chime in about Cam Ward?
I think it's a good pick at number 1. I do worry about his footwork. I think we've seen at times he tries to be a little too calm, too smooth in the pocket. In the NFL, you're not going to have that time to just sit back there and plant your feet. He's going to have to improve the footwork, but overall the talent's there. He's definitely going to be a solid quarterback in the NFL.
There is untapped potential, I feel like, with Cam Ward. Again, do I think he'll be like, a day one impact for the Tennessee Titans? Probably not, but, when you have a quarterback competition with him and Will Levis, maybe something can spark between one of them and embolden them to, I guess, take the lead for QB1, because, boy, they are going to struggle to start this season again. I do think this team will be bad again to start this next season. Let's Let's go to pick number 2, the Cleveland Browns. I think we have a surprising pick right here.
Well, you didn't have to spoil it there, right? I mean, speaking of teams struggling, we were talking about the Cleveland Browns. They make a critical decision. Do they go quarterback? Do they go wide receiver? Do they go offensive, defensive line? But I think it's about time for them to pick Shedeur Sanders at number 2, quarterback from Colorado. Look, his arm strength, it's considered inferior to Cam Ward. He might not fit in Kevin Stefanski's system, but he is a top quarterback for a reason. He's known for his toughness, his accuracy, as you can see there. His pocket presence is good. Despite playing behind an inconsistent offensive line at Colorado, he still threw for over 4,000 yards, had 37 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions last year. His experience in high-pressure situations and ability to take hits makes him appealing. For the Browns, who need a resilient leader, I think they pick Shedeur Sanders at number 2.
Well, so I'm going to have to disagree with this pick, TJ. I understand, you're in a tough position. You're picking for the Browns, unenviable position. I just don't think he's ready. I mean, he's the latest to go to the land of misfit quarterbacks, which is Cleveland. Held the ball way too long in college. And as you said in your analysis of Cam Ward, you have that extra 1 to 2 seconds in college in the pocket that you're not going to have in the pros. He knew he had a bad offensive line in Colorado, held the ball way too long. Concerns about his footwork. There's also concerns about, he's frankly just not the athlete his father was. Now, I get many people aren't, but he's not a scrambler, I think, that some people think he is. One saving grace for him, highest rated college quarterback in the 2-minute drill. Very important in the NFL with all the one-score games. I don't think he's the right pick for the Browns, though, at number 2.
That's the craziest thing about Shedeur Sanders to me is that he has, I'm not going to say he's unathletic, but compared to his father, who's one of the best athletes ever, Deion Sanders, he seems so slow out there sometimes. But who knows? We've seen, players that we don't expect to flourish in the NFL actually turn out to pan out well. And how about them retiring his jersey, the Colorado Buffaloes, at the spring game? Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter already getting retired jerseys for the Buffs. Interesting move right there from Colorado.
We're going to have to retire Joe's jersey in the HSN.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, I hope.
Except that one's actually valid.
I agree.
That would be
I agree.
awesome.
Hey, at least he's a better athlete than Shiloh. We can say
Oh,
that.
for sure.
Is Shiloh going to get drafted?
Probably.
Maybe because of his last
If he
name. Might be a
does-
Bronny situation.
He does, that team gets
But-
worse.
I hope
Yeah.
Shiloh rises
could be
on
Mr. Irrelevant.
Deion's child
Hey,
rankings.
maybe it's the Cleveland Browns' final round 7 pick. Hey, we took Shedeur Sanders. We're taking Shiloh in round 7.
Well, there you go.
Moving on to pick number 3 in the 2025 NFL Draft, Grabiel Silva. Who are the New York Giants taking?
Well, we already mentioned Shedeur Sanders, so let's talk about his outstanding teammate, Travis Hunter. This guy plays in many positions as he won awards last year. Heisman Trophy winner, Biletnikoff winner. The Giants already got what they needed at quarterback, so they're not really looking for a quarterback in this draft go-around as they have Russell Wilson, but the Giants are going to be drafting Travis Hunter. I mean, the guy plays 2 positions. He can complement perfectly with Malik Neighbors. He can also play. He can also guard in the back as a cornerback as well. So it'll. That's also a need that the Giants are going to have whenever it's time for them to, when it's a position that they need, the cornerback position.
Well, I think this would be a fantastic pick for the Giants. I think it's hard to pass on a largely unprecedented two-way player, even if you had him playing, say, a third to a half of the snaps on one side of the ball and then nearly every snap on the other side of the ball. Generational talent. Just, New York, please fix the MetLife turf. We do not need to see this man get hurt. Generational talent. And, they need help everywhere. So why not get a guy who can help you at 2 positions? I think it's a great pick.
For sure.
And people say he can't play 2 positions in the NFL, but that doesn't mean there aren't packages for him to play a little bit of both sides of the ball. Next to Malik Neighbors on offense, I think in 3rd down situations, 4th down situations, he's a dynamic enough player where he can really take advantage of some of that gravity that Neighbors takes on the offensive end, take advantage of that and put up some stats on the offensive side of the ball as well.
And can we also talk about the speed that this offense is going to have now? We already know Malik Neighbors is there. Russell Wilson, with what he has left in the tank, is still an elusive quarterback. But with the loss of Saquon Barkley about a season ago, having Travis Hunter on your offense allows you to utilize more of run end-around situations on short yardage packages like 3rd down, like 4th down. You get rid of Barkley, you don't have one of the best running backs in the league. Bring in Travis Hunter, works more end-around situations.
100%.
I know it's controversial that he won the Heisman to some people, even some people at this desk, that he was the Heisman winner compared to a certain other somebody, but You know, when you have a once-in-a-lifetime type of season like that, if you're Travis Hunter, it's kind of hard to not win the Heisman, playing both sides of the ball at a high level, having multiple touchdowns and interceptions. What a career he's had in college, going from Jackson State and then following his coach in Deion Sanders to Colorado. Moving on to pick number 4, the New England Patriots, Justin Goosman.
With the 4th pick in the draft, I have the New England Patriots taking Abdul Carter from Penn State. 6'3", 250 pounds, had 12 sacks on the season last year, a couple of forced fumbles as well. Even when he was banged up, he was far and away the best player on the field for Penn State. And if New England gets that type of value at the 4th pick, I mean, you can't do much better than that. Even if he has to miss some, if not all of this first season, you take on that because he's a generational prospect at the edge rushing position. He moved from linebacker to D-line last season, and he obviously produced through that as well. So I think Abdul Carter at the 4th pick would be a fantastic get for a New England team that's put some pieces around on offense, trying to rebuild that defense, has a solid foundation. Mike Vrabel would absolutely love this guy.
Absolutely. I think any coach would love this guy, but especially a defensive-minded Mike Vrabel. You can see the stats right there on the screen, but the tape, even if you were an alien who's just arrived to this planet, who's never seen football before, you'd say, that guy is good. I mean, it's just, he pops off the tape. 3rd most important position, arguably, behind quarterback and left tackle. And New England has an answer at quarterback in Drake May, or at least appears to. So I think that's a great pick.
I have to agree, too. I mean, I don't know if this post I saw on Twitter was rage bait, but they said his ceiling was Lawrence Taylor and his floor was Micah Parsons.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know if that was
Wow.
fake or if it was real, but look, he's talented. I think he can be a really good day one player to plug into a Giants defense that was actually really underrated last year with Wink Martindale, previously there at the time, but eventually departed. But when you have that defense like they have that's good at stopping the run, at times struggling to get to the passer, he is a good get for this defense that has actually had good sacks on 1st and 2nd down but struggled on 3rd down. Moving on to pick number 5, other side of the table, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Ryan Swantkowski.
Yeah, let's stick here with the defensive side of the ball. Not quite as good as an athlete as Abdul Carter is, but we're going to go with Mason Graham, the Michigan defensive tackle. Played for 3 years at Michigan. The numbers don't jump right off the page. 9 sacks in his career, 108 total tackles, but he is 6'3", 300 pounds, and can use his hands extremely effectively. Not only that, he played out, obviously, as you're seeing, the University of Michigan, who won the national championship 2 years ago. So he's already got some great experience in a very hard and rockin' Big Ten conference that continues to get better. He had the highest total NFL combine score of any D lineman in the NFL draft. He'll play in the interior. He can play a bit more on the exterior as well if needed. Really more of an interior guy. Takes up a good amount of space, and he's an athlete as well. Again, he uses those hands. He's quick with it. Again, overall rated best defensive lineman in the draft. I've got him going number 5 to the Jaguars last year, who are going to the Jags this year, whose last year's defense was abysmal, and that's a very nice word to use in a good way. They allowed over 25 points per game last year. I believe that ranked bottom 5 or tied for 5th the last in the NFL. So they can use some defensive help. I'm going with Mason Graham from Michigan.
I mean, I love this pick because, you know, there's 3 keys to being a defensive lineman, especially a defensive tackle: hands, size, leverage. Mason Graham is all 3 of those. There's talks that they may trade down, which I could understand because their roster is so depleted that you can get a lot for a top 5 pick. But guys, remember when Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, who we'll hear from later, absolutely terrorized Ohio State this year at the Shoe, leading to a Michigan win? I mean, that was a big result, and I think that shows that they can really project well to the pro level.
You know, and I think drafting a player like Mason Graham at his caliber, where he is in the draft right now for that specific defensive tackle position, it works well because when you pair an already abysmal defense with a great player and you put that player, Mason Graham, against some great offenses in the AFC South like C.J. Stroud, who you know, in the Texans, who you know they have a terrible offensive line, it kind of sets the scale in terms of Jacksonville's defensive line kind of has an advantage over Houston in that aspect. Will they have an advantage over the Colts O-line? Maybe. We know that Quentin Nelson's a great blocker. He is really good in the passing game. What about the Titans O-line? We know that they're pretty down the middle, maybe below par there on the O-line. But, Mason Graham kind of bringing the pressure for the AFC South.
Yeah, and they have Josh Allen on the edge and Trayvon Walker on the edge as well. Two very strong edge players that need somebody in the interior to really help them stop the run, which they struggled at last year in a big way.
All right, Robert, we'll stay with you for looks to be the Las Vegas Raiders, pick number 6.
Yeah, so with the 6th pick in the NFL draft, I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking one of the best players from college football this entire past season, Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. Finished 2nd in Heisman voting. Now, I know this is an early pick to take a running back for the draft, but we know that recently the resurgence of the running back position has gone up a little bit in recent memory. So with the Raiders, they literally need any offensive playmaker. They could do well by drafting one of the best running backs from college football. They could do well by drafting a wide receiver. But when you take Ashton Jeanty, who is known for his explosive plays down the sideline, right there, makes good cuts, it kind of boosts the offense a lot more in a way where you can do more with what you have now. You have Geno Smith, who kind of adds more running game to the offense with his own quarterback package. But once you bring on Ashton Jeanty, you could have him throw the wheel route to him maybe a little bit, have him line up in the slot just a little bit. But the resurgence of the running back game, especially where the Raiders are drafting right now, it allows them to boost their offense and add more creativity to the playbook.
Well, I like to pick Rob. I've always been a running back guy. And who's also always been a running back guy? New head coach Pete Carroll. He enjoys having except for Marshawn Lynch on the 1-yard line in the Super Bowl. But seriously, it's always been a run-first mentality. Pete Carroll at USC with the Seahawks. It's consistent. They will get him the rock a lot. And, this is a poverty franchise, guys. I mean, they need to get butts in the seats at the Death Star. That's the colloquial term for Allegiant Stadium. Their ticket prices are way too expensive, and they really need a entertainment factor. Why would you watch the Raiders right now? Besides, I guess, like Max Crosby and Brock Bowers, you need another playmaker, someone to help Geno Smith out. Geno Smith is not going to bring a bunch of average guys up. He needs guys to help him out. And this is a generational running back prospect, so maybe it's a reach, but I like the pick.
I do think he's a generational talent for his position. We saw Bijan Robinson get drafted pretty early about 2 seasons ago. But then last season, there might have been 1 or 2 running backs who got drafted really highly, but it was very quarterback heavy. So when you have a running back of this caliber who's supposed to be drafted this high, he's a generational talent. And why not pass up on him when your offense is already pretty bad?
Yeah, I think the Raiders, they have to do something about their O-line too later in the round, or not later in the round, but later in the draft to help Ashton Jeanty, because right now he's sitting at 5'9". He has a good capability of breaking tackles, but that O-line is atrocious right now in Vegas.
And he's not the elusive guy like Bijan or a CMC or a Saquon. So you have to have holes in the offensive line that he can burst through.
And
that is true.
And trust me, it was not fun going against this guy in high school. At least I feel better now that he's NFL bound. It's kind of crazy that he ascended the way he did from Boise State, but what a collegiate career. Obviously, was a Heisman contender as well, and arguably could have won as well. So moving on, one more round around this table before we get out of this A block. Armand Membou. That is the man who is going to be taken by the New York Jets. Pick number 7, folks. You may be wondering why. Why Armand Membou and not, say, Will Campbell? Look, this dude is quicker than Will Campbell. He arguably could be stronger than Will Campbell. 31 reps on the bench press. Look at him just dominating right here in the run game. Get out the way. Make a lane on the perimeter for my running back. That's what I'm talking about. Dominant in the run game, but also great in the pass game. As you can see on this little pitch right here towards the right with Mizzou. Look, he's a great offensive lineman. I do think that there's not as much of a difference between Campbell and Membou as you may think. But look, I do think that he could go right here at this spot and possibly rise for the New York Jets. What do you think?
I think it's a pretty good pick. Like you said, the speed is intriguing, especially on sweet plays to his side. Worst comes to worst, you don't want to draft a guard in the top 10, but worst comes to worst, you could kick him into guard with his speed and footwork. One of the better tackles available. They desperately need help to protect whoever their quarterback is going to be. I guess Fields. They couldn't protect Rodgers. I think it's a pretty good pick. I would probably go with more of a pass blocking anchor here like Kelvin Banks or Campbell, but I don't think they could go wrong with taking an O lineman. And O linemen are traditionally the safest, highest floor first-round picks. I'm never really going to get mad at an O lineman, except for that scrub the Raiders drafted a few years ago who had a 4th-round grade.
Was that Alex Leatherwood?
There you go.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We'll move on quickly to pick number 8, TJ, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I'm going to have the Carolina Panthers picking Jalen Walker, linebacker from Georgia. His versatility, his explosiveness, his local ties, it makes him an ideal fit for a defense that desperately needs a cornerstone player. They made a lot of good signings in the offseason. They signed Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Wanham, Pat Jones II. His 2024 stats for Jalen Walker at Georgia, he was at 6.5 sacks. Now tied for first on the team, 10.5 tackles for loss. That was the leader for the team. You could see him. We obviously all remember this game where he dominated the offensive line at Texas. But I think, yeah, he highlights his ability to disrupt offenses. He has his local ties. That adds appeal. I think that he fits well in their 3-4 scheme. It's potentially being Micah Parsons-like playmaker. The Panthers defense, they need somebody like that. They set a record for most points allowed in the 2024 season, so they need that transformative talent like Jalen Walker.
You know, I believe in this pick. I think he's going to be a very good edge rusher at the next level. You can see the stats there. I mean, Quinn Ewers is still having nightmares about Jalen Walker and some of those Bulldogs coming off the edge. They definitely need an edge. Worth saying, they may trade this pick. They've been shopping this pick a lot. But, you know, UGA's had a lot of great pass rushers come out of there, especially for Quan Walker, what was his name? The pick, first round, the pick a couple years ago?
Are you thinking about Trayvon Walker?
Trayvon Walker, excuse me.
To the Jags.
And he recorded a 17% pass rush win rate at Georgia last year. Can't argue with that. It's an important position. I think it's a good pick.
And what a fall off for the Panthers defense last year after having probably top 10 defensive seasons the past 3 years, one of them being with Steve Wilkes, of course, when they almost made the playoffs. And what it was, a trash NFC South, if you could say it like that. But look, Steve Wilkes did not get rehired. The defense kind of suffered as he went to the Niners to become their DC, and they would not win the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on to pick number 9, the New Orleans Saints, Grabiel Silva.
Well, unfortunately for the Saints, their possible franchise-altering quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, has already been drafted. So they're going to have to go with the next best option. That's going to be Ted McMillan out of Arizona, the 6'4", 219-pound receiver. He's a very towering receiver. He's able to, create space out there on the edge. Biletnikoff Award finalist, lost to Travis Hunter, my pick earlier. He 3,423 yards in his college career. This is a guy that, he's the ultimate pass catcher that a team like the Saints are probably going to need, especially with, some of the quarterback issues that they have. They need more stability there, especially after, Michael Thomas. We haven't seen Michael Thomas in years, but they need a guy like that to try to get back on the road.
I like to pick Grabiel. I do believe they have bigger needs, but you can argue for a team like the Saints, you just go best available in this spot. Edge is also in need. O-line is in need. Corner is in need. So you hit a need because they do need an opposite bound receiver, opposite Olave. So I do like the pick, and they're probably not going to be a playoff team anyway. I mean, they're still rocking with Derek Carr. So
Dennis Allen gone. Insert Kellen Moore, former Cowboys OC.
Gotta say, as a Falcons fan, I love this pick. They still won't have a quarterback. They're gonna have Spencer Rattler and an injured Derek Carr throwing in the ball. Love that pick.
Still injured.
God bless.
Super Bowl winning OC Kellen Moore. Who knows what could happen? Maybe.
Boise State legend.
yeah, but you need the Jimmies and the Joes, not just the X's and the O's. So
Oh,
Wow.
Shakespeare.
We need a graphic of that. That's going to be a graphic, post-show graphic.
yeah.
Come on.
All right, fellas. Pick number 10, Justin Goosman, the Chicago Bears.
Well, it hurts to have to pick for the Bears here. Tommy Yarish, Jason Anderson, Bears fans in the chat. They're gonna love this pick here. Kelvin Banks, we're going the tackle from Texas. Now, again, we could talk about Will Campbell here, but Kelvin Banks was the Lombardi Award winner, 6'5", 314 pounds, started every single regular season game, every single year that he played for Texas, and he played from his freshman year all the way up until his junior year, heading into the draft as a junior. I think he is the best offensive lineman in the draft. There's talks that he's going to fall outside the top 10, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This is a guy that's made improvements in the run game every single year and was the best offensive lineman as soon as he got on campus at the University of Texas, and is still the best offensive lineman, if not one of the best in franchise or school history with the Longhorns. So I think this would be great looking at what Ben Johnson did with the Lions back when they took Penei Sewell. I think this could be a similar centerpiece on the offensive line for Chicago.
I mean, when you have a franchise quarterback, you need at least one, if not two, bookend tackles. And like you said, Banks, from the moment he stepped in on campus, was Texas's best lineman and arguably one of the best linemen in the country as a freshman. I think it's a great pick. Caleb Williams can get happy feet in the pocket and try to extend plays too much like he's still in college. You need to keep him in the pocket to learn the position. It's a great pick.
And then you also think about the way that he had to block for a guy like Quinn Ewers who couldn't escape the pocket. Now you give a guy like Caleb Williams just a little bit more time, and now he can escape the pocket. That could be huge for their offense.
Yeah, I think this is a great pick for the Bears as well, just to add in. I don't know how this guy would ever fall out of the top 10. Before the season started, he was mocked in a lot of top 5 mocks. Seeing him fall out of the top 10 after the season he had, first year in the SEC, making it far into the playoffs, protecting Quinn Ewers, Banks to me is a phenomenal pick at 10 for the Bears.
First Longhorn. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in addition to the pass blocking that he has on the edge, he also provides some good interior blocking between the guard and the tackle position for running backs like Roshan Johnson and DeAndre Swift to hit those holes and make some plays, because Caleb Williams, great elusive running back, but you want to be able to change up the play calling just a little bit. And when you can have running backs who can really punch it in like Johnson, Swift, we know how elusive and shifty he is. Banks does provide an asset there in terms of protecting the outside run a little bit.
And this turnaround with Chris Del Conte and Steve Sarkisian has been so special. Last season, 11 Texas players drafted, which at the time was the most they've ever had selected. They could possibly break it this year. Had 14 guys invited to the combine in this draft combine cycle this past month. Who knows what they can do as Kelvin Banks is off the board first for the Texas Longhorns. Their first draft pick so far for our mock. We're going to go to Ryan Swantkowski for pick number 11, the San Fran 49ers.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball. The Niners lost a lot of players this offseason. We'll get into that in a second. But we're going to go with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. Yes, the Niners are looking for both a defensive lineman and a CB at this pick, as they lost Tadarius Ward to the Colts in the offseason. Harmon may be a bit of a reach, but he can absolutely help this defense get back to form in a big way. In his 3 full seasons, 2 of them being at Michigan State before he went to Oregon, he hasn't missed a single game, which for the 49ers is a big deal because that team gets injured more than anybody in the NFL year after year. So sustainability there and being able to be healthy is a big key with Harmon. Along with that, he had 45 tackles last year, 10.5 tackles for loss, which I believe matched Walker from a few picks ago, and had 5 sacks. So he's one of the biggest compliments to him as well is his toughness. That's the 49er way. They need to get back to that. Last season, severely underperformed with all their injuries. Nick Bosa needs a new best friend right next to him. He gets that. Along with this, Hargraves and Malik Collins, 2 of the defensive linemen for the Niners, left in the offseason, like I mentioned earlier, that we'd get to. There's a hole there that needs to be filled. I believe Harmon can do that. And again, Nick Bosa gets a guy next to him that can create some damage.
So I like this pick. It addresses a need, but I'm glad you brought up injuries. You know, the Niners have been snake bitten with injuries. Just today, this is from SI, Harmon has medical concerns, unfortunately. So I believe.
What medical concerns? What medical
It just says, quote, medical.
What does that even
Will
mean?
he pass his physical?
Medical concerns.
Hey, it's from his source.
Not a doctor,
It's from his
Brian.
source, all
Not
right?
a doctor.
They
So
phoned
the
in.
problem is, while some teams may overlook that, I don't know if San Fran is going to overlook that, because as you said, they've been snake bitten with injuries.
yeah.
They could go a lot of different directions here. Not your fault at all.
No, bro, this is
It came out with
groundbreaking
medical
news
concerns.
live on the show.
Yeah.
With that being said, he hasn't missed a game in 3 straight years. So hopefully
that's
it's nothing.
that's crazy.
I hope he's okay.
That's crazy.
mean,
Maybe there's just a disgruntled
He's literally
agent.
played every
I
game
don't
in
know.
the years, and now
I
day
don't know.
of, he's got a medical.
No, and part of a great defense at Oregon. I like this pick. I hope he doesn't have medical concerns, but if he does,
The Bengals
they're going to stay
released
away.
the Bengals released something. They want him to fall all the way to, all the way to
They need a
17,
defensive
man.
back, though.
All
But
right,
they
Joe.
could use him as well.
People forget that Robert Saleh also went back to the 49ers this offseason after being at the Jets, was in DC and San Fran, I believe, for 3 or 4 years. We know that he loves to play hard-knocking football over there in San Fran. And this guy brings a lot of energy and a lot of intensity. So
a lot of scapegoating in the past for Kyle Shanahan's squad. We've seen it with their Super Bowl losses, but no complaining now as he brings one of his best buddies, Robert Saleh, back to call the shots on defense. Last pick here for A Block, the 5-time Super Bowl champion, America's team, Dallas Cowboys, Robert Gonsoulin.
Really? We doing this?
Wow.
Great call.
I was very excited to
Lincoln,
get this
am I
pick
Lincoln?
with that introduction. America's team. We'll see. But Joe, Grabiel, TJ, you're Cowboys fans. This is a very exciting pick for me. Matthew Golden, I have him going to the Dallas Cowboys here. This is one of the most fun wide receivers to watch in all of college football. You see that one-handed catch right there. The 4th and 13 play, miracle play for Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns. Boom, Matthew Golden caught it right there. Anyways, this is a receiver who we've seen make crazy catches on throws that are about to be near misses or drops. Matthew Golden finds a way to make plays, and he's really climbed up the ladder here in this off. He really used the playoffs to climb up the ladder and improve his draft stock since the season has ended. I think that from what I've heard from the Cowboys fans that I've talked to, that they are confident in Dak Prescott being their guy. I don't know how y'all feel about that sentiment, but I've heard Cowboys fans say they do want Dak Prescott to be their guy, that they could win a Super Bowl with him under center if he's healthy. This is what I have heard. I don't know what y'all think, but
Per sources.
But having Matthew Golden on the receiving core, a guy who can play the wideout, the slot, and the trips receiver position, the guy who can play all 3 sections of the field, and joins Kevontae Turpin, he joins CeeDee Lamb, he joins Ryan Flournoy, he joins Jalen Tolbert. He gives Dak Prescott so many options here, and he's just a creative receiver. He can play in all sides of the field.
Well, I think it's definitely a need. They need a legitimate target opposite side CeeDee Lamb. And the thing is, I think if he falls to this spot, Jerry will pick him because Jerry loves headlines and he loves,
those Texas guys.
Exactly, getting Texas guys, getting like local guys,
like Longhorns.
Arkansas. I mean, he loves. He was talked out of picking Johnny Manziel just for like the headlines and the marketability of it by his son. I think that he's going to be a really good receiver. I also think that Quinn Ewers will probably be drafted a round higher because of some of the catches that Matthew Golden made to bail him out on some absolute ducks this year. So yeah, I think it's a good pick for the Cowboys, and I think Jerry will be salivating to make this pick.
Yeah, Robert, I liked what you said, that this is a great pick for the Cowboys. They're going to finally have somebody to complement CeeDee Lamb. I don't know about the other 2 Cowboys fans,
Yeah.
but I do personally believe in Dak Prescott, but you named a bunch of other plumbers alongside in his wide receiver core, and a fat Zeke Elliott is his running back as well. So having a guy like Matthew Golden is going to help Dak Prescott and this offense. I mean, any help is some sort of help, and having somebody to complement CeeDee Lamb is going to be perfect for this offense moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all aren't happy with the other options on the offense besides CeeDee Lamb, and you said you have
Most definitely all right.
you have Zeke Elliott as your running back. Like I said, I want to re-emphasize the ability for Golden to play all 3 types of receiver positions. So you can basically put him anywhere, and you can get productivity out of it.
Yeah, I love the Golden pick, really, because, I mean, it's crazy to think just a couple years ago that this team had one of the best receiving cores in the league with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. That's all gone now. They do not have good depth at all in wide receiver. But, I mean, you're talking about a team who is last in creating separation, I think, for the last couple years with the wide receivers. Matthew Golden, amazing, has amazing route running, amazing, creates so much separation. I love this pick.
And I love the quiet confidence in Matthew Golden, too. It feels like, I don't even know what he sounds like, to be honest, but I remember when he was having the 40-yard dash, competition between him and Isaiah Bond, I believe. Isaiah Bond was doing a lot of chirping, and he didn't even hear a word almost from Golden. And then once he got the higher 40-yard dash, you heard some chirping on social media. But it's just that quiet confidence from Golden that really makes me think that he has a future in the NFL.
Quite the opposite from CD.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. He's more outgoing, CD for sure. That'll do it for picks 1 through 12 here in the A block. When we come back, the Miami Dolphins and Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and after underwhelming performances last season, they're looking to find gems that can bring them back to the playoffs. The College Press Box Mock Draft Show will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the College Press Box mock draft. We're now to a slightly more difficult stage in the middle of the draft. It's time for picks 13 through 24, and I'll start us off at 13. So, the Miami Dolphins trying to get back to the playoffs. Mike McDaniel's crew struggling. Tua Tagovailoa going through injuries, of course. Another concussion issue. They got to start back in the trenches for me. I'm going to go with Tyler Booker, offensive guard from Alabama. All SEC honors last season. Started all 13 games that he had with the Crimson Tide team that was not exactly as great as we thought they could have been after the Georgia game. But look, he's dominant in the run game. He's great in the pass game as well. They got to get physical again for Miami if they want to have their run game going with Devontae Chan. Of course, Raheem Mostert, their run game 2 years ago was lethal. Raheem Mostert leading the league in touchdowns 2 years ago. Out of nowhere was a fantasy weapon, of course. But if you want to get back to that run game, you got to start in the trenches and get more physicality. I'm going Tyler Booker.
So I like the logic of trying to help Tua here, not just to protect him from the injuries, but to help the quarterback's best friend, the running game. You could have went Will Campbell here, though, Joe. I understand that. They really need help on the back end. Jahdae Barron is still on the board. Will Johnson is still on the board. There's some talented defensive tackles on the other side of the trenches they need help with, but you are addressing a need here. He has been the real undisputed leader of the Tide's offensive line the past 2 years, so I get it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it because you're actually right, because Tyler Booker, I was thinking more of the interior of the offensive line, trying to run up the gut again. Even though they do love to run outside the tackles, I do think Will Campbell will be good in that aspect as well. But I'm viewing more of like that power run game that they can have with Devon Achane up the middle and protecting Tua up the middle so he doesn't get so much hurt. So much more concussions that he's had in the past, which I believe was his 4th or 5th time having a concussion in the NFL. So moving on to the Indianapolis Colts, TJ Krilowicz, who do you have?
Yeah, I have the Indianapolis Colts picking Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State as the wide receiver. He's a polished route runner with reliable hands. He's got 81 receptions, over 1,000 yards last year, 10 touchdowns. He offers a complementary piece to Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs and the Colts offense. There's a big dip in confidence in Anthony Richardson last year for the Indianapolis Colts. If they want to have the more confidence, they need to give him more weapons, especially somebody who can maximize his arm strength. Emeka Egbuka, big deep threat for the Indianapolis Colts. I have him going at 14.
I think he's a good pick for any team. 91st percentile separation rate. You got to get open. But Indy does have bigger needs. O-line, tight end, linebacker. Jihad Campbell's still on the board. But I get it. I completely get it. If you're separating, you're going to help quarterbacks out, even bums like Anthony Richardson.
That Ohio State team had the Avengers on their receiving core, and these poor Texas Longhorns couldn't really keep up. In the end, of course, at the end, it would be you have something to say?
Yeah, dude, Daniel Jones is going to love throwing to this guy because Anthony Richardson's going to play probably 5 or 6 games again, and then it's going to be Daniel Jones. So
right.
I mean, Egbuka is just he's a phenomenal player. So I think the pick makes sense. Maybe best player available there. Superstar.
I'm thinking.
Now, I think he's going to get a little frustrated when he walks into the QB room and sees one guy's already injured and one guy's flat out terrible. But
a little AFC South slander.
Well, there's a lot of
I mean, it is facts. It is.
Will Howard's a questionable quarterback at times, too. I mean, and he was able to make it work. I think he's going to be able to make
That's
it work.
fair. Very fair.
Let's go number 15, Grabiel, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, with the 15th pick, I'm going to go here with the Falcons. My brother over here, Mr. Goosman, agreed with the pick. I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart, the junior edge out of Texas A&M. Atlanta racked up the second fewest sacks last year, only 31, and generated the third lowest quarterback pressure rate at 28.6% in the entire NFL last year. So, after Matt Judon was kind of a bust last year for the Falcons, this is something that Atlanta's going to need, especially in the trenches on the opposite side. We saw that defensive pressure is big. He doesn't have big numbers in college, only 1.5 sacks last year. A&M wasted him like they do with a lot of the talent they have. But he's going to be a good addition for this Atlanta Falcons squad if they're able to develop him to be who they think he could be on that defensive end.
Yeah, I like the pick because, like you said, the numbers aren't crazy, but he's going to be able to learn from some veterans. The Falcons signed Leonard Floyd. Braylon Trice from Washington's going to be healthy next year, making his Falcons debut. So the numbers aren't crazy, but I think getting the raw talent is something that Atlanta could benefit from. You have a defensive-minded head coach. You're bringing back a coordinator that worked with some great talent in New York. So it's a pick that makes me worried, especially when you have Mikael Williams still on the board, but it's a pick that could definitely work for Atlanta.
I agree. I think it's a pick that works. Some say one of the better edges in the draft outside of Abdul Carter. But Goose, I just want to ask, why do y'all always need an edge like every draft? Like it seems like Atlanta always needs an edge.
So for a while it was we got Vic Beasley and he had like one good season and then completely fell off the face of the earth. We drafted Tack McKinley over T.J. Watt, so that kind of is self-explanatory. And then we just completely neglected defense for like 4 years in a row. So. Atlanta always needs an edge. They will always need an edge. It feels like even the ones we draft don't work out, so just praying that this one will.
Well, moving on to pick number 16. We'll stay with you, Goose, with the Arizona Cardinals.
For the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to go with the 16th pick. I'm going to go with Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. 6'5", 317 pounds. He is coming off of an injury. That's the big concern, but he's a fantastic physical lineman. He's really good in the run game. He's solid in the pass game. And Arizona needs kind of a bit of everything. We don't know if Kyler Murray is the guy to move forward with, but with the quarterbacks that are still available at this point, there's no reason in taking a risk. Build the trenches out. I think it's a solid pick for Arizona. The only question is, if Will Campbell is still available at the 16th pick, I think that's probably who they go with over Josh Simmons. But regardless, I think either of these would be a good pick.
Well, the Campbell comment is a given, but I have to love this pick because he had the best pass blocking efficiency score last season amongst tackles in college. Can't argue with that. It's a passing league. You're trying to develop a quarterback. They even needed middle linebacker. They even needed edge. This is still a great pick, though, Goose.
All right, moving on to pick number 17. The Cincinnati Bengals trying to get back into the playoffs after a heartbreaking finish, not making the playoffs in the very end of the season. Ryan Swantkowski, who do you have?
Yeah, we're going with another Longhorn here for the Bengals, and it's going to be Jahdae Barron, true defensive back from the University of Texas. The Bengals secondary last season was better than their 2023 outing, but it still has a long way to go. They were 22nd in the league in pass yards allowed per game, and their current CB1 is Cam Taylor-Britt, who desperately needs more assistance in that secondary. Barron won the Jim Thorpe Award this past season, being recognized as the best DB in college football and is an immediate day one starter. He was fourth in FBS last season with 5 interceptions. He was first team all SEC. He has started every single game for the Longhorns in the past 3 years outside of their bowl game against Washington a little bit over 2 years ago. I mean, this is just an absolute stud that the Bengals need in their secondary. He's not only a stud on the field, he's a stud off the field. Great guy to have in the locker room. He's proven. He's everything you want for your secondary, and the Bengals need to bolster that up badly. So I got Jahdae Barron going here.
Fantastic pick. I mean, it's a 5-alarm fire in that secondary. It's barbecue chicken whenever they face a decent pass-catching course. Thorpe Award winner, as you said, he can line up at safety, nickel, slot, boundary corner. Thorpe Award winner for a reason. And Cam Taylor-Britt needs some help back there. The secondary just has to not lose them games. They don't have to win them games. You have Joe Burrow. Just don't lose them games.
Even as a rookie, he's definitely that spark that you want in the locker room, especially for the defense, because we saw how dominant Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were on offense last year. Everyone was just always saying it was their defense that was letting the team down. And when you bring in Barron, you see what he does to the defense at Texas. You can see that the Bengals really need a guy like that who'll bring that spark, kind of bring some new swagger to the unit on the team. It's Barron who you need, and that will kind of help the offense out in some way through the defensive help.
And iron sharpens iron, going against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in practice. That is going to be a great matchup. They're only going to get better and feed off of each other. Really like the pick.
Pick number 18, Robert, with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, so with the Seahawks at 18, I have them picking Jaden Higgins, wide receiver from Iowa State. Higgins is a guy who could really go for the jump ball, as you see right there. But as you know, the Seahawks, they now have Sam Darnold, who had a great season in Minnesota, but they just they decided to go with the direction of J.J. McCarthy. But here, will Sam Darnold be good on another team? Well, not only do you have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, JSN, you also have a guy in Jaden Higgins. So his offensive weapons are already there. Higgins, he's the guy who definitely knows how to work linearly across the field. He can take the slot position. He can also play the outside exterior. So he's probably not going to be playing there with JSN and MVS on both sides of the gridiron, but here you have a guy who can play the slot a little bit. Give Darnold another option as he's going to look to show the rest of the world that he's still a good quarterback regardless of the system he's put in. And, with the starting role coming, Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver core in Seattle is looking good.
You hate to see a guy lose money as quickly as Sam Darnold did in that playoff game against the LA Rams. Man, that guy could have done something special with those 14 regular season wins, but disappointing way to end the season for him as he's now the sheriff in Seattle. Back around the table, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pick number 19. I'm going Jahad Campbell, Alabama Crimson Tide. Inside linebacker, Levante David. He is getting old, folks. Still a great high-level linebacker, but he is getting old, getting up there in age for Coach Todd Bowles. And look, this team has not played in the greatest division, but they've done well with the cards they've been dealt. With Baker Mayfield now as their quarterback. And the defense has been all right, not necessarily like top 5, not elite. But this pick, I believe, can get them right back into the Tom Brady era defense that was so dominant. And having a guy like him, who was all SEC at the linebacker position, I think he's a great pick to get this defense back in the top 5 position.
Absolutely. I think he may be off the board before this pick, but if he falls to Todd Bowles and the Bucs, they will rush that card in to take him. Who better to teach him than Levante David? How many Pro Bowls has he made? How many All-Pros has he made? And he's already been a part of that Alabama defense. It's a need with David getting older. I think it's a great pick if he's somehow there at number 19.
Yeah, for sure. Pick number 20, Denver Broncos. TJ.
Yeah, I have the Denver Broncos picking Kenneth Grant from Michigan. We already talked about Mason Graham, his sidekick. I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant. He is a great, a massive interior defender. He's at 6'3", 331 pounds. His only problem is that he's not that good in the pass rush, but he really makes up for it in the run defense. It definitely gives them a disruptive force next to DJ Jones. The Broncos' run defense was middle of the pack. They allowed about 137 yards per game last year. Grant's ability to clog those lanes, collapse pockets, it will easily ease the pressure for those linebackers for Denver. So I think this is probably the best pick for the Denver Broncos at 20.
So I love the player, but I actually don't like the pick in this spot, and here's why. You said they're middle of the pack. They really weren't because they were second in the league in yards per carry against. So teams weren't really running it against them. So I think they have other needs, running back, wide out, tight end. Got to help Bo Nix out a little bit, especially build on that good rookie season. Love the player. I don't know about in this spot, but he's a great run-stopping defensive tackle.
The number 1 defense possibly getting even better. That could be a solid pick for that defensive line, going with the compatriot of Mason Graham. Pick number 21, the 6-time champion Pittsburgh Steelers. Grabiel?
Yeah, well, the Steelers are possibly waiting to see what Aaron Rodgers is doing once he gets out of his hiding hole and decides on retirement or continue playing. But with this 21st pick, I'm going to have to go with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is an experienced quarterback. He played 3 years as the starter at Ole Miss in Lane Kiffin's spread RPO-heavy offense. But, he's an aggressive kid, doesn't let the bad throws deter him because, he makes mistakes. He's like those frat guys at Ole Miss. A lot of stuff goes wrong. They just pick themselves right back up. He does have above average arm strength. He does have some athleticism, as we saw in that last play. He can run the ball, but the accuracy isn't anything. He did play in Lane Kiffin's gimmicky offense, but this could be something that either he could be a starter right away because right now they have Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, or he could be the kid that's learning from Aaron Rodgers as the season goes forward.
I mean, I don't think this is the pick here, Grabiel. I'm not sure you even made the best case for him being the pick here. If he's a frat guy like Ole Miss, the question is, does he have a burner? We can't answer that right now. However, I believe he's kind of a TikTok quarterback with quote-unquote aura. He can run a little bit, throws a nice-looking ball with some touch, but the mechanics are wildly inconsistent. And critically in the NFL, you have to throw with anticipation. He doesn't throw with anticipation. This is why I worry about Quinn Ewers. They were each in very similar quarterback-friendly systems. I'm not sure they're ready cognitively for the NFL. And Pittsburgh, I mean, what are you doing at the quarterback position? You're waiting on ayahuasca Aaron. Why?
Well, hear me out. Hear me out. You could do both. You could sign Aaron Rodgers and draft Jackson Dart. Then those anticipation throws that you talked about, the mechanics, those things can be worked on. Aaron Rodgers knows he's not going to play for more than a year or two 2 is generous. So you draft a quarterback, it's not going to be a hit on Aaron Rodgers' ego. He's done the mentoring with Jordan Love and Zach Wilson the last couple years. So I think you could go with that as well and draft Jackson Dart and sign Aaron Rodgers and see what you have out of both of those guys.
Yeah, the Falcons did that last year too with Penix. It works out.
Penix is going to be a good guy. Yeah.
Well, Goose will stay with you with the LA Chargers and Jim Harbaugh's second season.
As you just mentioned, Jim Harbaugh, I think we're going to have a Michigan connection here at the 22 overall pick. The Chargers, in my opinion, will take Colston Loveland if the draft plays out like this. 6'6", 248 pounds, a really, really good route runner, and the Chargers need a productive tight end. I mean, Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin are just not going to get it done for Justin Herbert at tight end. They have a receiver core that is getting better, but they need a reliable tight end. A quarterback like Justin Herbert could really, really benefit from a guy that can find soft spots in the zones and get a quick break out of the slot and the tight end there. So I think this would be a fantastic pick for LA. He's not the best pass blocker. We know Harbaugh loves a pass blocker at tight end, but it's a Michigan connection. So I think it's a really, really good fit for Loveland.
Nothing else to add. Great pick, great reasoning.
So let's just hope he doesn't drop the football when he's not even getting touched on the field like he did against Milwaukee.
That was crazy.
Low blow, Robert. Low blow.
Man.
We'll move on to pick number 23, the Green Bay Packers, the host city for the NFL draft, Ryan.
Yeah, and we're going to stick here with Michigan as well. Another player for Michigan off the board. We're going to go cornerback Will Johnson. 2021 first-round pick, CB Eric Stokes for the Packers, left to the Raiders in free agency. Jair Alexander, as good as he is, may be wanting a change of scenery in 2020 after the 2025 season. Safe to say the Packers could definitely use another day one starter in Johnson, who is the 2024 National Championship MVP and has 9 career interceptions as well to go along with that. He's 6'2". He's got good height and has phenomenal flow and instincts on the ball, like you just saw on your screen. But he does have injury concern. Last year, only played in 6 games with a lower body injury. The year before, also missed time with another lower body injury. So, outside of that, though, Johnson will have immediate impact for the Packers as long as he can stay healthy. Before the season started, he was regarded as the best CB in the nation. I put him behind Barron now, but still, Packers can always load up their secondary, and I think Johnson will fit in really well here.
Another great pick, another great explanation. I think the crowd in Green Bay will be jumping if they're able to send this card in. I think it's a great pick, barring the injuries, of course.
Wrap us up, Robert. Pick number 24 for the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, I've got the steal of the night so far. I don't know how y'all can even pass up on this guy, but I got Will Campbell, offensive tackle at LSU. The man who used to wear number 7 for the Tigers this past year. Now, Will Campbell, he's good at getting his hands on. He's good at getting his hands on the defensive lineman fast and quick enough. He's good with the placement. He's good with putting the swim move that defenders like to do with the O-line and getting those hands down and getting them on the shoulder pads very fast. And then, obviously, what a get for J.J. McCarthy. You know, this is the guy the Vikings went in. They said, we're going to go, like I said, they're not going to go in the direction of Sam Darnold. They're going with, this will now be his rookie season since he got hurt before the season even started last year. J.J. McCarthy, we don't know how good he's going to end up being in an actual game setting, but wouldn't it be nice to have one of the, who I think is the best offensive lineman in the draft, on his starting 5 right in front of him, right there. Will Campbell, one of the biggest linemen in the entire draft this year, away from McCarthy to have more protection, and when he gets his hands on the shoulder pads fast, that's what you look for in an O lineman. Will Campbell steal the draft to the Vikings.
I mean, absolutely. If he somehow falls to 24, you know, I think we had another Laramie Tunsil gas mask bong situation. I mean, if he does, tremendous pick to help out J.J. McCarthy, and maybe the best tackle in this draft, probably a starter for a decade plus in this league.
And folks, this is why we aren't GMs. Because in no world would Will Campbell fall this far in this draft. That's just how it went.
Hey, I saw a great player in the open pool. I took him.
There you go.
Hoping no medical concern comes up as they pick him.
Well, great analysis, everybody. We're almost at the end zone of College Press Box. When we return, the NFL's best last year, the playoff qualifiers, including the Super Bowl champion Eagles, are on the board and are due to make some valuable picks. Who will they take? You'll have to see when the College Press Box mock draft show returns. Stick with us. Welcome back to College Press Box Mock Draft Special. Final set of picks of the draft tonight in our mock draft show. We're going to go from 25 to 32 to wrap it up. I'll start us off on pick 25. The Houston Texans. I got to go with Gray Zabel, offensive tackle, North Dakota State University. FCS ball right here from a team that won its 10th title and their 10th FCS win, finally getting back on track. We know them as like the Alabama of FCS ball, but I think Gray Zabel can get plugged in as the offensive line player in day one to protect C.J. Stroud, who was running for his life last year, almost set a record for the most sacks that he had to surrender to. And look, if you can have a guy like him who's big, 6'6", obviously 320, started all 16 games, relatively healthy, first-team FCS All-American, he can be a day one tackle that can change the game in the trenches for the Texans.
I completely agree. High PFF grades. A little concerned about the FCS competition he faced. Big step up to the NFL generally, and FCS even more so. But they traded away Laramie Tunsil to my Commanders, and so they need more help on the offensive line, and he was running for his life.
Yeah, they need help real bad, and people want to put this pick here and go get a wide receiver for the Houston Texans. If they go get a wide receiver in the first round, that is absolutely the wrong move. The O-line needs to be bolstered in any way possible. It should be multiple bodies being drafted. I think Zabel, will bode well and be a day one starter. Like you said, 6'6". Hopefully he can do good things. It's got to be O-line in the first round.
When it comes down to it, as many as false start, early jumping penalties that Laramie Tunsil had, he was one of Houston's best blockers up front right there. So yes, he's not going to be on the team anymore, but you are going to need someone. You're going to need to boost the firepower up front as much as possible. Like Ryan's right, you don't go with a wide receiver here. They're fine. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, when he gets back from the injury, should be good. Stephon Diggs is gone. Yes, you need to fill a gap there, but Mechie's right there to fill in the gaps. You don't need a receiver, long story short. Where you need to work is the offensive line, and Gray Zabel, great pick.
And even a younger Xavier Hutchinson, you don't want to give up on young players like that. Of course, Stephon Diggs, like you were saying, now a New England Patriot, no longer a Texan. So that is a big loss for the Texans, but they still have a great receiving core nonetheless. Moving on to pick number 26, TJ, with the LA Rams.
Yeah, this guy's a rising prospect in the NFL draft. I think the Los Angeles Rams go with cornerback from East Carolina, Siobhan Reevil. He got injured last year. He only played 3 games, but he had 3 interceptions in that game, 2 PBUs. And with his length at 6'2" and his athleticism, I think he thrives in the Rams' zone-heavy scheme. Tre'Davious White, he's aging and he's also injury-prone. Kobe Durant, he's better suited in the slot. The secondary needs a lockdown outside corner to pair with Darius Williams. I think Reevil is that guy. The Rams' pass defense, they struggled a little bit. They ranked 23rd in the league, and I think his ball skills will very well help the Los Angeles Rams next season.
I mean, you're definitely addressing a need. Slight concern off a devastating ACL injury he suffered last season, but again, corner is definitely a need for LA. They could go with Kentucky's Maxwell Harrison here, Ben Morrison out of Notre Dame, but Revel is definitely in the mix for that, and it's a need, so I completely get it.
How surprising was that Rams defense last year? Of course, young, very young with Chris Shula calling the shots on the defensive side of the ball. Single-handedly won them some games, especially that Cardinals game late in the season, but that would be a great addition for them in the secondary for sure. Pick number 27, the Baltimore Ravens. Grabiel?
Well, don't ask me how this guy ended up falling all the way down to 27, but I'm going to have to go with Georgia edge, Michael Williams. I mean, this guy was a nightmare all season long. He accumulated 20-plus tackles and I believe 5 sacks this past season. He was a nightmare, as we saw against the Texas Longhorns. I mean, Quinn Ewers still has nightmares about him and the other Georgia edge that we mentioned earlier. I mean, the Ravens, We saw that the only way to beat Patrick Mahomes, or one of the only ways to beat Patrick Mahomes, is by getting pressure on him, as we saw with the Philadelphia Eagles. So getting a guy like Michael Williams to pressure Mahomes will help in the postseason, and Josh Allen as well, as that's who the Ravens lost to last year. So an edge like that, who can kind of like try and get into that into the face of those quarterbacks, is going to help a lot for them.
Absolutely. I think it's a very good pick. He also excels against the run. Granted, Baltimore's already good against the run, but yeah, they need him for pass rushing. All the great quarterbacks in the AFC help them compete. Not sure he'll fall this far either, but then again, some of these people have to fall this far because we're saying that like every other pick. So
Ravens defense was very streaky last year. They didn't have the best start to start off in 2024. Finished the season very well with a young DC. But moving on to pick number 28, the Detroit Lions, Justin.
So the last pick I gave was the Chargers. They went with the Michigan connection, Colston Loveland. I'm going to stick with a similar coach to college connection here. I'm going to go with Nick Scorton, edge rusher from Texas A&M, 6'3", 257 pounds. Again, the A&M connection here with Dan Campbell and a former Aggie. The Lions can sort of afford to reach and go with one of these guys that might fall to the second round because they're so talented offensively. They're going to make the playoffs. That's a foregone conclusion, minus a couple of injuries. With Aiden Hutchinson lining up on the other side, Scorton's going to get a lot of one-on-one attention. So if he can exploit those matchups, he's going to be a stud in the NFL, in my opinion. Not necessarily the fastest edge rusher, like an Abdul Carter, but a powerful guy. He still has the speed, has the one-on-one moves to do some damage to opposing quarterbacks.
I think while some may say, oh, this is a reach, a second-round grade, like you said, they can afford to reach because they have a complete roster, 95th percentile as a pass rusher over the past 2 seasons per PFF. Can't hate the pick here. I mean, opposite Hutchinson, who will be back, he'll never see a double team with that defensive front. I think it's going to be a very, very good pick for Motor City Dan Campbell.
And people said they were reaching when they picked Jahmyr Gibbs, too, as well. And we saw that turned out from the offensive side of the ball for them. And Dan Campbell's now going to have to see how he can fare with 2 coordinators that are now gone. Aaron Glenn, the new coach of the New York Jets, and Ben Johnson, of course, coaching the Chicago Bears. Pick number 29, the Washington Commanders. Ryan Swantkowski.
Yeah, the last 2 picks have been defensive ends or edge rushers, and I'm going with one more here again for the Commanders. We're going with James Pierce Jr. from the University of Tennessee. Commanders last season making the NFC Championship game with their first year. Jaden Daniels had a busy offseason in acquiring Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, and other big names, yet are still lacking a major edge star rusher on the defensive side of the ball. Clelin Ferrell and Dorrance Armstrong are solid players, but Pierce Jr. brings some intensity to the front unit along with Deron Payne. Pierce was first team All-SEC the previous 2 seasons, 17.5 tackles for loss and 17.5 sacks combined over those past 2 years. He's got great length, great speed, maybe just needs to get a little bit stronger in that weight room in the offseason as the season moves forward. Overall, though, he's an explosive piece the Commanders could really use to get over that NFC Championship hump and maybe beat the Eagles and maybe go win it all next year.
I hope, as a Commanders fan, that he falls to 29. I think it's a very good pick. He is a prototypical edge rusher that Dan Quinn likes in his defense. I mean, you saw the career revitalization that Dante Fowler had last season. They got to replace his 11.5 sacks. I'm not even sure Dante Fowler's that good of a player, but he fit the system. And Pierce Jr. can play the run better than Dante Fowler. I think this would be a great idea. He can help on all 3 downs instead of just being like a second and third down passing down guy. I really hope he falls to number 29. I think this would be a great pick for my Commanders in one of our bigger need positions.
This is one of those picks, though, where the off-the-field issues are a little bit of a concern. Some draft experts have talked about it a little bit, but if he falls that far, I think that's a risk you're willing to take for the Commanders.
He cleared that, though. It was a little something to do with his driver's license. It all got worked out. I think he'll be okay.
All right. Moving on to pick number 30, the Buffalo Bills. Robert.
Yeah, so I got the man down out of Oxford, Mississippi, Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle, going to the Buffalo Bills. As you can see right there, him tearing up the interior line of scrimmage right there. So the Bills ranked 13th in defensive line statistics last season. They had Ed Oliver in the interior, and they also have Joey Bosa on the end right there. But Walter Nolan brings sort of a boost that they need to kind of crash up the line of scrimmage when running backs like on the Chiefs. They are in the same Bills and the Chiefs, different divisions. I'm sorry, but the Patriots, who will use the run game a lot, the Jets, they will use the run game a lot because they can't rely on people like Justin Fields or Drake May's a great quarterback, getting better. But the point I'm making here is these are teams that will elect to run the ball a fair amount. And so Walter Nolan joining Ed Oliver, joining Joey Bosa on that defensive line, especially one of the best defensive tackles in all of college this year, he brings congestion that allows the Bills to win more short yardage situations in big time games, and maybe for them the AFC Championship, because they have not won that one and they recently. And Mahomes, that's their kryptonite.
I think it's a good pick. They could use a run stopper. I think everybody could use a run stopper to rotate up the middle. A big fella clog up to the lanes, as you said. Need position. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, Robert, I agree with this pick. Like I mentioned earlier with my Michael Williams pick, that these AFC teams that are, in the upper echelon, they need somebody that can try to disrupt, Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, for the Bills.
Oh, Stroud.
And Stroud. Okay, I'll throw Stroud in there if he makes it past. If he can make it past the divisional round, he can get there too. But I like the pick. He's. I remember when Walter Nolan was, potentially a top 5 pick, and then he went to Ole Miss and kind of got lost in the crowd. But this is a good pick for the Buffalo Bills to try and, get some disruption against Mahomes and Lamar and C.J. Stroud.
All right, 2 more picks to go in the draft. We're going to go with the Super Bowl runner-up, the Kansas City Chiefs. I got to go with Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon. Man, oh man, what a disaster that Super Bowl was for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, who was also running for his life. Just all-time bad pass grades from the whole entire offensive line. Mahomes was sacked a career-high 6 times, hit 7 times by a ferocious consensus number 1 defense for Philadelphia. Not exactly a slouch. But look, he was running for his life, but this is a great pass blocker who can be a protector for Patrick Mahomes and get them back to finally, not a Mahomes MVP season from 2018. I don't think we'll see that again, but we can actually have a chance to protect him again and finally run the ball effectively in the late stages of the season, because it looked like they were really beat up, especially in that Super Bowl performance.
I mean, some draft grades will say that this is a reach, second round grade, but you're basically picking in the second round at this point. They need protection for Mahomes. The common denominator between their 2 Super Bowl losses was they couldn't protect him, and that they're basically making the AFC Championship every year. They need that extra protection for him. I think any O-lineman here is a good pick.
All right, we'll wrap it up here with TJ, pick number 32, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles, they don't have a lot of glaring needs. I'm going to go with the 3rd player in the first round from the SIP. I'm going to go wide receiver Trey Harris from Ole Miss. I think his size, hands, route running, it makes him an immediate wide receiver 3. It adds depth to an offense that needs reliable targets behind A.J. Brown and sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Donovan, yeah. And so, I mean, his ability to win contested situations, it complements his hurts. I think that, they have a big trench obsession in Philadelphia, but I think they can go defensive line in round 2. They also have their front 7 is already super strong already. Jalen Carter, Davis, Sweat. I think Trey Harris makes the most sense for them right here.
And can we just talk about... Go ahead.
Go.
I want to talk about how SEC heavy this Eagles offense would be if they drafted Trey Harris. You already have Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith making that Alabama connection, but Trey Harris, being from Ole Miss, who's also from there? A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And Anais Smith is also on the team. I know he's not one of their star-studded receivers, but it just comes to show the SEC, as we all know, produces great talent, but they also play against each other in college. And when you when you can combine the chemistry together of maybe being from the same school, even if it's at a different time, it brings in a cool little connection to the locker room that they can kind of bond over.
Just means more, as they say. They do need an opposite boundary wide receiver because Smith is more of a slot guy. I think this is a bit of a reach, but I can see totally why you did this. It's definitely a need. Also, great story for Trey Harris. He was only a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, ends up transferring to Ole Miss, makes it big there. One of the success stories of the transfer portal.
And that'll do it, fellas, man. Picks 1 through 32. That'll do it for our show. Thank you so much for watching our College Press Box mock draft show in 2025. Once again, we invite you to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at the handle TSTV Sports. Also, this is our final week of our shows, so make sure to tune into this week Wednesday's College Crossfire Senior Show live at 9 p.m. and the Want to Know Sports Show's producer show honoring members such as graduating senior Michael Alvarez. It's been an honor to host this broadcast with these gentlemen, and thank you so much to our volunteers that have worked this show, including Aaron Vela and my fellow co-sports director Tyler Moss holding it down in the back room. Y'all were incredible as usual. And also much thanks to Abby Science and Isis Reyes for working mics and teleprompter. Also Colin Flickinger, stage managing, holding it down right here in the front in front of us as well. And it's been an honor to work on College Press Box throughout the 2024 and 25 school year. For Robert Gonsoulin, Ryan Swantkowski, Justin Goosman, our analyst Ryan Hopper, Grabiel Silva, and teacher Krilowicz, thank you for joining us. And for the last time, for me on College Press Box, have a good night.
We're sorry, Tyler Warren.